Windrunners. Maybe that's what it is. It's about the wind running through their flapping. That's just what I get from her.
We're like wrist deep in Kaladin at this point, given how the story's been going. I'm also going to drop this in here real quick. For anyone who isn't familiar with us and is watching, we're so critical of some of the things in this book because we, like, Joe and I both love Stormlight. Like, for me, it was my favorite fantasy series before this book.
But he's a stage 4 oaths radiant person, which only one other person that we know of, I guess Shallan and Yesna, are the only other 2 people, and he's like
stage
the leader
4.
of the Windrunners.
We make it sound like
Man, up
stage 4
and go fight. What are you doing? Like, I'm gonna retire, bro. The world is at trouble, and you're one of the strongest champions. Stop being such a giant and go fight.
It's either that or like put the barrel in my mouth, dude. I don't know,
dude.
Oh, Christ.
What you gonna pull a Kaladin?
No, I would just think about it for a while.
God, what a useless piece of shit, dude. Just go out and help his people are dying.
I
don't know, Sigil out there. They have like no troops. They don't have enough people. If only we had somebody who said the 4th idea that might possibly be able to help us. I don't know. Maybe that would be awesome. Plans.
Is docking considered unity? I'm just curious. All right, bringing us in. This is an Iron Seas video with me, the ultimate kahuna, and the legendary Bat Sauce.
Hey!
On the short bus himself. And today, we're going to be having a very serious, very somber talk about the book number 5 of the Stormlight Archive, Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. Take it away, Bats. How is this review going to go?
All right, well, on my own channel, I already just released a video talking about it slightly. So we're going to get into some nitty-gritty details about Stormlight. We're probably going to be talking about it for a while. It's a long freaking book. There's going to be spoilers. I'm not even going to bother doing a non-spoiler segment. And there's already going to be hints of what's going on if you looked at the thumbnail and everything like that. But the structure of this, we're going to go through every character that's kind of a main focus character. And we're going to talk about their story and how we thought their arc went and blah, 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 and all that stuff.
Also, how it concludes and what it means for the future of the Cosmere as a whole.
Of the Cosmere, exactly. So, who do we start with? Who do we want to start with? Because it's like, I almost want to go straight to Kaladin. Because it's got such strong opinions about Kaladin. But I feel like we have to leave him to the end.
I don't like so much of what happens with Kaladin in this book. But then, like, some of my favorite moments of this book are also with Kaladin.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
I like it. It's a dumb thing, but I like the scene of him and Syl like doing the kata and dancing. I think it's a sweet scene for a character who's been like with a trigger in his mouth for like 4 books in a row here. It's a nice scene to see that character happen.
That could have been a nice scene if it was done with a different character. That wasn't acting like such a giant blabbering pussy. Maybe the Windrunners, maybe that's what it is. It's about the wind running through their flapping pussies. That's just what I get from Kaladin.
Oh, jeez, dude. Yeah, no, the therapy was... It felt like such a modern...
Are we talking Kaladin?
Yeah, we're already in it, dude. We're into Kaladin. So
the main character.
We're like wrist deep in Kaladin at this point, given how the story's been going. Oh, here. I'll ask you this: what do you think about the end result of Kaladin's story? Like, what he like? Spoilers, guys. Warning. Final warning. Spoilers. He ends up as a herald. I actually like that ending. I just don't like so much of this book. I hate how much therapy there is.
If all you tell me is like, yeah, Kaladin becomes a herald, and I'm like, oh, that's cool,
awesome.
But then you tell me any of the details around it, and I'm like, that's fucking dumb. Like, so much stupid around it.
Kaladin.
But let's not jump too far ahead into the part where he becomes a herald. So the Kaladin story throughout this entire Stormlight 5 is that he's with Szeth, and they're on a mission to go get all the honor blades. He's sent by Dalinar, is that correct?
That's kind of, he's sent by the wind also.
The wind, that's another discussion. The introduction of the wind, the earth, and are they Spren? Are they whatever? Are they just
the wind,
just
the rock,
different?
The wind, the rock, and the night. Those are the old spirits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, how are they different than the Stormlight, the Stormfather, the sibling, and the night thing?
Because no, what happened? I can explain this real quick. So before the shattering of Adolin, he creates Roshar. On Roshar, he gives some form of sentience to 3 different, like, basically original spreads.
Yes, but here's the thing, and it's like I always talk about with a lot of people's stories, they don't have the good idea of very filtering, right? Like, people just have too many ideas, and they need to filter it. And obviously, that's always been a problem with Sanderson. But like, dude, way too far. We have too many things. How many things have already been introduced that we have to keep track of?
Well, it's also tricky because parts of those original Spren were taken by the shards when they came to Roshar and incorporated. So it's like, hey, it's the same thing you've seen before, but it's the original version.
It's just it was dumb. We can probably get into that later, but yeah. So they're on the mission to get the Honor Blades, and literally every time we get to one of their chapters, which I'll say, like overall in this entire book, the switching back and forth was getting pretty bad. It was a little too frequent between characters.
I'll confess something. I actually, for the most part, I liked the 10-day aspect of this book.
I like that. I like that idea
because it creates like
tension.
a natural countdown, and that was a really interesting. I've never seen that happen in a book before. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like that, having that countdown to create the tension.
I suppose we should talk about Szeth too, because he's with Kaladin like the entire book.
Well, yeah, I'm saying when we're talking about characters, we're probably going to talk about like the group they're with, you know. So they're on a mission to get the Honor Blades, so that means they have to defeat each champion that's with them. And what I was going to say is that every time we go back to Kaladin or Szeth, I'm like, please just, can we not? Both these characters
I actually liked the Szeth flashbacks though. I liked his growing up story. It wasn't bad, but it was a good one. I thought there was like, it was all, honestly, I almost would have rather read that whole book instead of just, you know, everything that we had in this book.
It wasn't bad. My biggest problem with Szeth, and this isn't a Stormlight 5 critique, is I just never gave, like, I'm a minority on this. Like, I'm just like, he should have died back when they had the big fight in the two storms.
In Words of Radiance, yeah,
that he should have died. Like, there's such this big problem with. I could have sworn Brandon Sanderson liked killing his characters sometimes, but he just cannot do it in the story.
He also likes resurrecting people. He's done it with Kaladin three times.
Too much.
Yeah,
it's like Szeth should have been dead, and I kind of think that the entire like people and the culture of Szeth kind of don't really make sense. I don't understand why people aren't trying to take over this land.
It's a very there's a lot of geological barriers. The mountains are like nigh impassable, which is
I guess that's true, and that's something you kind of don't really. It's kind of hard to conceptualize in your
the
in your
people
head
with low T always forget about that. Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like he was like a little boring, and I just was kind of always just like, why is he back? And I'm like I was like, okay, I get it. He's a misunderstood villain. It's another misunderstood villain. But I'm like, that could be true, but we could also have him dead, and then also maybe tell a different story with one of his family members or something.
I also like that who the book was written by. I thought that was kind of neat, because at first I thought it was written by it was written by a woman in Shinovar who ends up marrying and becoming the wife of Szeth.
Yeah, that's right. Story. Yeah, they say that right at the end. I had to rewind it like 3 times to like
get it right.
But it's a character we never meet.
From as far as I know, maybe she's mentioned earlier, but I don't remember it.
Yeah. So like right in the early, it's established that with Wit, which that's another thing. But like, that Kaladin is going to be a therapist, and they don't just like heavily say that, you know, in the writing. They flat out say like, Kaladin, you're going to be the world's first therapist, and I'm like, wow, I can't imagine something less I would rather read about. Is just therapy.
You know what I would have liked? I would have liked if Wit didn't say if he didn't say the word therapy, it would have not hit me as hard. But like, I've never been taken out of a book as much as like him telling him he's going to be the world's first therapist, or when Syl said her famous freaking like the worst line.
She called Kaladin racist in the most cringy thing ever.
That's racist, Kaladin.
Because they're like, racist. Oh, not all Spren have numbered names or whatever. That's not.
And she's at like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean racist? Can we?
Like, he doesn't literally has no way of knowing that. And even among the Spren, it's not a normal thing. If I went to a foreign country and they had numbers for names, why would I expect that?
Yeah.
It's just dumb, dude.
Or does the other clan have numbers for names? What? How could you ever assume that or ask that question? I don't know. It was so bad. And just so much about this I just couldn't stand. And it's funny too, because so let's say he didn't even flat out say therapy. It still was terrible, because it's just like And this was something that people said worked really well with Kaladin before because they're like, oh, this is the best interpretation of PTSD. And I'm like, yeah, you can talk about your feelings and stuff like that. You could try to work through your trauma or whatever, but like, it has to be.
It won't solve all your problems. It has to have a component of action, which is why when he talks to Szeth, I don't mind it as much. But when he just like fixes nail, I am bothered by it.
Well, even with Szeth, because it's so on the nose of trying to, it is literally like he has 2024 like therapy books of like trying to understand the mind, and it's just like this is so takes me out so hard, yeah.
And again, I think part of it is that the writing overall prose and quality. There's a lot more modern language that doesn't fit. There's a lot of the way people talk is not. It used to sound very medieval, or not medieval, but at least not modern. And now everybody talks really, really modern. Did you notice that in this book?
Oh, absolutely. Well, a lot of people pointed out too that Adolin specifically, with one of the lines, said he dates Shallan when it's like every other time it's been mentioned, it's been courting. Yeah. So yes, no modern. And look, there's no other better way to make it sound modern than therapy. Therapy talk. It's just so modern. It's something that we didn't start discovering or conceptualize really in like the 1900s.
I was going to say like last 150 years or so, maybe 200 years. Not even that. Yeah.
And even at that, like you're still years off of like the type of thinking that Kaladin's
like definition doing. And yeah.
Oh my god, it was so bad. And I know we mentioned like, hey, they go to like base each of the honor blade wielders, and I'm like, that sounds really cool. Again, on paper, it sounds freaking awesome. They're going to go take down these people wielding these legendary blades.
It's like he's Scott Pilgrim beating the like what 10 Lexes or whatever.
Yeah. Well, they're all stage 5, like basically radiant powers.
They're very strong. They're trained with the honor blades.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had a weird moment. At first, when it was first, like in the first Szeth flashback, when his father was like, I can't condone this action my son did. I'm like, oh my god, it's another fucking Rlain, like Kaladin's loser, but dad, but then his dad, like Szeth's dad, ended up being pretty cool. Like he was very dedicated to his family and very, like he was deceived, but he was a good man. I'm like, never mind, he's nothing like Rlain. F Rlain, I still hate that guy.
And I'll say, like, Brandon still writes good fight scenes. Like when he fought against the Honor Blade people, like those were pretty entertaining chapters that we got, how they would fight and everything like that. My biggest problem though was the lack of help with anything with Kaladin. And this is like my biggest complaint in the entire story is that you have one of the most powerful people in the Renarin world, as far as people know, or that is allowed to participate. Because technically win and everything. But he's a stage 4 oaths radiant person, which only one other person that we know of, I guess Shallan and Yesna, are the only other 2 people, and he's like stage the leader 4 of the Windrunners.
We make it sound like
man, the fuck up
stage 4
and go fight. What are you doing? Like, I'm gonna retire, bro. The world is at trouble, and you're one of the strongest champions. Stop being such a giant fucking pussy and go fight.
Oh, like, I have. That brings up another really big problem I have with this book. The taking the wind out of oaths and taking the importance.
We'll get.
That has a bit more to do with another character, but it's a huge problem in this book.
We'll get into because we'll get into that. I mean, we'll get into that with this story because that happens. It's like every fucking character arc, they renounce their fucking oaths. And like you were gonna say,
the problem, like if a couple characters, whatever. But it's like the whole theme of this book is oaths bad. It's like, but here's the main argument of the book. It's like oaths are bad, can be very bad for the individual. Yeah, oaths are not made because it'll help you most of the time. Oaths are made because it's a self-sacrificing gesture and a promise to someone else. And that was one of the things I really liked about the Stormlight series. Is like, man, oaths are like that. Like I remember telling my wife, like, we need to bring back people making oaths. Like people need to take their words seriously. Kaladin choosing to protect the king in Words of Radiance is one of the best scenes in any book I have ever read. It's an incredible scene. It's an incredible moment of like declaration of intent and power and sacrifice. And now this whole book is just taking a giant shit on it. And it's not a bad thing to explore that concept where oaths can be like bad or whatever. But this was explored in the worst way. And it wasn't even really about exploring that as much as saying flat out oaths are bad. I don't know how you don't come away from this book thinking that that's kind of like the direction that Brandon was taking this. I'm also going to drop this in here real quick for anyone who isn't familiar with us and is watching. We're so critical of some of the things in this book because we, like Joe and I, both love Stormlight. Like for me, it was my favorite fantasy series before this book,
Well,
and now I
Cosmere.
can't. Yeah, for sure, in the Cosmere.
Well, I mean, the Warbreaker is my favorite book. I think the Mistborn for Era 1 is like a perfect trilogy. So those are all part of the same Cosmere universe, and we now have Stormlight 5, the most important part of the Cosmere to date, I guess.
Yeah.
And damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'll say this on Twitter. Michael Caine, Michael Caine, an indie author that I know, he brought up a really good point that is part of the problem with the Stormlight books specifically. Each book is so many words. Each book is essentially a trilogy. So if you look at it like that, this would be the equivalent of like book 18 in a series, not book 5.
Sure.
Which I think that it's not the entire problem, but I think it is part of it because you don't want to just repeat the same story beats over and over again.
Well, everyone,
I think that's part of it.
I've seen a lot of criticism online. I think everyone, like big, huge Brandon Sanderson fans, like Daniel Green and stuff like that. Well, like even personal friends of him, right? They've all been very critical of this book. I think they don't need to be more critical, but
yeah,
it's like this book needs to be criticized way more, in my personal opinion. But yeah, all of them have said some like similar criticism. Like everybody agrees the length of the book is just there's a good 20% at least that could have been cut out.
Yeah. You don't he like Brandon has fallen into the trap that I've seen with a lot of these kind of books. Every book in a series has to be bigger and longer.
And it doesn't.
You can't always do that. Like that's something I admire about one of my other favorite authors, Pierce Brown. He's the author of Red Rising, my favorite, like one of my favorite series. He has his first trilogy and then he has his second quadrilogy. Each first book in the second quadrilogy is bigger, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets smaller. His third book in his second series actually was smaller than the first in that series. It's like something, and it's like completely different. I'm like,
well, it's like you always say,
do that. Yeah,
a story is as long as it needs to be, and it doesn't always need to be longer.
It doesn't. I'll say something controversial. It doesn't always have to be bigger. It has to have impact, even if it's a smaller scale story.
Yeah. It's just aiming for that word count it's just not a good idea. But back to the characters at hand. Yeah. So I mean, is there any one of their specific fights we kind of want to talk about? I mean, like they were all done pretty decently. We had Nightblood, right? That's his name.
Nightblood. I like how he was utilized in this book. I don't have any problem with the way Nightblood is. The fact that he's talking to the Honor Blades and learning how to grant powers to people. I think that's such a cool in-world idea. I love that idea. Because it's an intelligent sword. He is the weirdest thing in the Cosmere to date.
I had one problem, and this is kind of an overall criticism of the Cosmere universe now. He just granted, so we get to the end, right? I guess let's not even talk about any specific fights. Let's talk about because the Honor Blade fights, they're good fights, but there are one step to the end, right? Yeah. But yeah, Nightblood granted Szeth Windrunner abilities.
No, Edge Dancer.
Oh, was it? I guess
I
was checked out pretty hard.
Yeah, I wasn't checked out. I was just very aware.
I was trying. I was so annoyed with what was happening. Well, he had Edge Dancer abilities then? Why Edge Dancer?
Temporary. Because he's talking to the other Honor Blades, and he already defeated the Edge Dancer, so he was. Yeah, he already had.
Nightblood did. Yeah, so he kind of absorbed. Okay, so he kind of absorbed that power. That's okay.
Yeah,
well, I guess that kind of helps. I still have some over. I'll save that to the end, but all right, I'm okay with that. So I think at first though, big fight wise, we had because the entire time Kaladin only cares about trying to therapy Szeth, and then he tries to therapy Nail, the Herald.
I don't actually hate that scene. I just hate the therapy aspect of it.
Yeah, but basically. The reason they're doing this is a pilgrimage for Szeth to become a herald. So that's like the goal of their mission.
Or to cleanse Shinovar, whatever that means.
Yeah. But that's only told to them in this book when they're by themselves by Nail, right? Nail is kind of...
I liked how we got to see his path. I like this. I like that we understand why he is the way he is.
Yeah, but it kind of just solidifies my thinking from originally when we got introduced to the What the hell are they called? What's
Windbreakers?
Fart waters. No, what's their radiant
The
names?
Skybreakers, you mean?
Skybreakers, yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
their logic and everything, it's just retarded. I mean, can we not any character taking the law that seriously to that culty of a way? I'm just like, this is too retarded. Come on, guys.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think
I like the idea they're going with. I'm like, come on.
I don't like some of the execution in this book. I like again, for me, I'm not upset with everything that happens. I'm upset about a lot of execution. I'm upset about some of the focus. I'm upset about, again, there is so much therapy in this book for the love of all that is holy under God, dude.
Yeah, I like that one. One review somebody left. If you like therapy and contract negotiations, this will be great for you.
No. That was close. It was a woman. She said, "Yeah, if therapy and contract negotiations gets you hot, then this is the book for you."
Which is basically the best summarization I've heard.
Oh, it was good, dude. It was good.
Yeah, but yeah, Kaladin fights Nail for a bit, and Kaladin gets his ass beat.
I'm actually okay with him losing to a 10,000.
Oh yeah, of course,
5,000-year-old herald. I'm okay with that.
Right. Who says the fifth oath? Because then we get to this point where, because I guess all the honor blade users are, and I forgot. I'm remembering more, but all the honor bladers are now.
They're puppets of Ishar, the herald.
Yeah, they're they can't die.
Their spirits are held captive.
The main herald is able to create his own heralds, I guess.
Ishar, because after Honor dies, his powers as a bondsmith are not held in check anymore. Because a bondsmith is the most powerful radiant order there is because of what they're able to do. And yeah, Ishar is crazy. He's done some crazy nonsense.
Yeah, it's again, there's a little bit adding too much to the world again, but it is fine. So I guess
there were 19 levels of complication added to the Cosmere with this book, and it was too much.
Szeth had to do this epic fight by himself against all of the honor blade wielders, and he runs out of Stormlight, right? And it's this oh shit moment, Szeth's gonna die, and Kaladin's like, what can I do? And then he says his fifth oath, which I'm sorry, no. I must protect myself so I can protect others. It's not a bad oath, but I'm this is definitely not number 5.
This is not. This should not be number 5. Szeth skipped the fourth ideal.
Yeah,
what the hell is going on?
I see people I like that he did that. Just shut up. It's stupid. He says I'm the law, and immediately I forgot who said theirs first.
Scene recreation. I am the law.
The opposite effect of Judge Dredd for me. So we have two of the worst oath reveals because it's always such an epic moment when an oath is revealed, and it's just
even the fourth ideal for the Windrunners. I will accept that there are those I cannot protect.
Fantastic.
That's a great and for Kaladin, that's the perfect oath. It was great.
That's why I'm and this is part of my thing. I'm I don't think that was originally his fifth oath. I think that was changed. I'm sorry. There's no way it was this bad from the.
I wonder. I see what it's. I could go either way. I have no because we don't know, and I haven't seen any interview where he's revealed what all he had written out at the beginning. It does feel like this whole thing has taken a very strange turn.
It's such a drastic turn. That's why I'm it had to have it has to be different. But the it's just was such a lame oath. I must protect myself so I can protect others. Dude, I mean that's basic fucking knowledge. I don't know. It's not some.
It's not. It's not even
revelation.
An oath. It's not even an oath. It's it's an
it
acknowledgement of your
therapy.
own it's acknowledging that you can't help others unless you exist. I mean, it's just taken away from that core of sacrifice, that thing that we love to read in stories when people sacrifice, not just sacrifice to death, but put your life on the line. I must protect myself. You're not putting your life on the line. Go all the way back to the first book, The Way of Kings. Kaladin jumping over, or Dalinar giving up his sword Oathbringer for the abridgment, like stuff like that shit, dude.
It's cool
It's
thing.
not-
It's cool thing.
yeah.
It's cool. Not this, and he does it. He says his fifth ideal only to power Szeth with
And to
Stormlight.
try to help Ishar, which doesn't work the first time.
Yeah, and it doesn't really do much. And then, but Szeth says the fifth ideal. He defeats them. It's pretty anticlimactic, and then he immediately renounces his oath. And I'm like, and that's I don't think he was the first one to renounce his oath in the story, but it was just like,
no,
why?
they had.
Why
some
did you
stuff
say-
leading up to it? Yeah,
why did you say the oath in the first place if you're just going to renounce it immediately right there?
at
defeats the
least with our other friend who renounced his oath, and like there's holy crap, there's like 3 or 4 characters who renounced their oath in this book.
Right.
Like, there's a lot. Yeah,
And there's like one that kind of like might as well have.
one made sense, and
Yeah.
I don't really buy the other 2 fully. The two that I needed to buy for this story to work, I don't buy. That's the problem.
Right. I'm trying to remember who the other last one is though.
Spoilers: Dalinar,
Well, Dalinar, yeah, I remember him. Sigzil.
Sigzil, yeah.
And then who's the other
I
one?
think there's another one, but I can't remember who at this
No,
point.
I think you're thinking Adolin, but like he never said an oath, like because he kind of did in a way, like he just denied oaths.
Oh yeah,
in
no.
general.
Oaths are stupid, but promises.
Promises. I know it might seem like a
Fuck!
slight difference. Well, that was like, holy shit! Wait,
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
anyone who's reading that, no.
Also, with
No,
all that
it's
being
just
said,
that, like-
Adolin had the best story in the whole thing.
Well, we'll get to that. We're going to do
I know,
Adolin next.
I know,
All right,
I know.
because I need like a refresher or something to ease me over, right?
It's either that or like put the barrel in my mouth, dude. I don't know.
Dude,
Oh, Christ
what you gonna pull a Kaladin?
No, I would just think about it for a while. then not do it.
Cal, what a useless piece of shit, dude. Just won't fucking go out and help his people that are
Again,
dying.
I like
I don't know,
I like-
Sigzil
I-
out there. They have like
Yeah.
no troops. They don't have enough
Sigzil-
people.
Sigzil
Well,
was
if
a-
only we had somebody who said the fourth ideal that might possibly be able to help us. I don't know. Maybe that would be
Man,
awesome.
If only like one of the most powerful not benders. This is Avatar. If only one of the most powerful firebenders.
Oathbender.
Oh yeah, Oathbender. That's kind of his problem, actually.
I'm the last Oathbender. Kaladin.
He's not even a main character. I'm going to address him real quick. Sigzil was a bona fide badass, and I loved every scene he was in this book. I liked his fighting. I like his like when he broke his oath. It was to save someone, not to not hurt them.
We'll save it.
Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it.
I decent. I'll say that, right? Like decent. I would not as good on as you are, but I'm like I don't have really major complaints for Sigzil.
Yeah.
So Kaladin is Szeth, because I mean this is like the biggest thing besides Dalinar's part. Which we'll be going over probably the other characters a lot quicker, honestly. It's just Szeth and Kaladin for this. Fuck. Yeah, so Szeth denies becoming a herald, and Kaladin's like, I'll be a herald. And kind of
Then they redid the oath so that they wouldn't be getting
The oath,
tortured
yeah.
for thousands of years in between.
which again, this was so stupid. What's the deal with taking away consequences? Like that was another big factor. He took away the consequence because when you say like, oh, he's gonna be herald, and he's in Braze, like so like during between now Stormlight 5 and Stormlight 6 or 7, whatever, Kaladin's going to be tortured. Like incredible. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But they redo it so their minds don't get transported, so they're just gonna be in a big
Imaginary spiritual.
cloud to have their Kaladin therapy sessions for the next upcoming books.
I have a controversial differing of opinion there. Actually, no, I don't. I don't know how I feel about it. I've been thinking about it a lot about that, and I can't decide if I love or hate it. I
Which
can't
part?
decide.
The minds part?
Yeah, I like the idea on one hand because basically it makes the oath pact much stronger. It's not if this is what they do, this is
It's
the condition
stupid.
they
It
put.
takes. I'm sorry.
It makes it
Terrible
so
take.
it's something that they will never have a reason to break the oath pact again. Basically,
Yeah, but like that again, that makes it. Then we're taking away the stakes of it. We're making it like just like okay, cool. So what's the hard decision here? There isn't a hard decision actually. We get the best of both worlds. our bodies get tortured. What does that mean? Well, absolutely nothing because we don't feel
Our
it. So it's
bodies
really
are
not
immortal.
Get tortured.
Yeah, no, I know. I know what you're saying.
It took away what was cool about the Oath Pact and the tragic decisions that they had to make, and kind of like, oh, you guys are really screwed over that one guy.
All of that relates to something that I really one of my favorite scenes in this whole book. But we'll get to that here in a minute. I'll get to that here.
Well, for Dalinar or which character?
No, Telen Elot or Telen Elot, the Herald.
Is that the one that never broke?
Yeah, the bearer of agonies. Yeah, him.
Okay, yeah.
One of the best scenes in this, in one of my favorite scenes in Stormlight is in this book, and it's super short, but I love every second of it.
You gonna mention during the Dalinar part or something?
No. When he is in the hospital, and then the fused come in and start go to start hurting all the people in the hospital where he's staying. Basically, snaps them out. Oh, he said, well. Yeah, he and the girl, I can't remember her, the Herald, I can't remember her name, the daughter. Ash, I think. Yeah, they're in there, and then the Fuse come in, and they're going to start slaughtering all of these innocent, injured people, essentially, or insane people, and that snaps Talon out of his crazy, insane trance.
See, I didn't really relate to that because
yeah.
It's not that it was written bad or anything like that. My problem is, again, you have too many things going on. And I have to look, I'm like, okay, which Herald is this, right? You just forgot the name. I was like, okay, so what's going on? Which Herald is this? You got 10 fucking Heralds among, the different Radiant Orders and this and that, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, which Herald is this? So I have to now look it up. And, oh, great, I just got spoiled because Kaladin's a Herald. So,
yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that was, unavoidable because you're like, well, I need to know which Herald we're talking about here. Because there's too much information, and then it's you scroll down and it's right there, the second listed herald is Kaladin.
Well, I do hate that, but what I love that scene that basically the most badass, the most humble of all the heralds, the one who was the strongest, the best warrior, he suddenly, in a moment of need, he is able to snap out of his insanity and wipes out 2,000 or 3,000 dudes without an advanced weapon, and just goes to town. Because that's essentially what happened.
Yeah, my problem with that was just is not necessarily. It's just a matter of being kind of a little confused because there's too many things to kind of try to keep track of.
I would say that's
maybe a skill issue at that.
That's a criticism of the overall book, but not of that scene specifically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's maybe.
Okay. So Kaladin becomes a herald, but I'm like, yeah, but it's not a big deal. So. It becomes an immortal with it, which is okay. So you get the thing is, if you get a great gift, it's
that's something else. The names in this book are not strong. They have to come up with names of new things. The new names are not strong. He's the herald of second chances, like a fucking teenage girl horse film. I do not like that name.
It's dumb.
And also, since we're going to talk about Alien, I'll skip the name thing at the end. I hate. They are the unoathed, or the unsworn, or whatever the hell they're called.
We'll get to that when we get to it, which is going to be next. But okay, overall thoughts on Szeth and Kaladin.
On paper, I like where they end up. I like the Kaladin and Syl become heralds. Technically, Syl is a herald. Technically,
I like that. That's all I like is that singular concept. Anything else? No. No,
again,
don't take away the punishment.
Yeah,
it's he's doing this big sacrifice. He's going to be tortured for who knows how long. But it's but not really. He's not really being tortured.
Yeah. I'd have to think about it more. It's an idea. I do see the problems with it, but there are things I do like. So it's
also having that spoiled, finding out that he becomes a herald at the end. I'm like, oh shit, that means at the end.
I don't know, dude. That sounds like a skill issue. I don't know, dude.
It says located in Braze, right? So it's oh shit, that means during Sunlit Man, I'm like, Kaladin is being tortured for who knows how many fucking hundreds of years. I'm like, whoa, the thought of that's crazy. But now I'm like, oh no, he's just
they're jerking
body he can't feel is being tortured.
Also, there were a couple things I'm still a little unclear on. I think we need to just cut off on Kaladin and that whole storyline. So
yeah,
we've spoken plenty on that, for 40-ish minutes or almost 40 minutes. So do we want to go to Adolin and the defense of Azir next?
Let's go to Adolin, and this is without the doubt the best part of the story. And
this is the best perspective by far in this book.
Yeah, best story writing is in this, and I was just like, some of the things that happened, I'm like, holy crap, this is so awesome. This is like legendary.
Like there are stakes, there's sacrifice, there's desperation, there's turning of the tides in both directions. It's like we don't have superheroes to fight here for us anymore. It's right. I don't know. I really, it was my favorite part of this whole book. Like that storyline, Adolin, he became one of my favorite characters in this book because of this book. Like
I was already starting to like Adolin a lot, and this was just like solidified him as just awesome. I mean, so this story, right, is all of them are they're just like as a human race, they're trying to survive the 10 days. Because at the end results of whatever between Odium and Dalinar, it can get worse if they lose land.
Yeah, I didn't catch that part of the contract in the fourth book.
It was a little silly.
Excuse me, sorry.
It was a little silly, but it was fine enough for an excuse to be like, we need to have a lot of this action going on. So I'll accept it, right?
War. Yeah.
I
like that it caused like major warfare in offenses on both sides.
And Adolin's part is they're in the Asish land, and in the center of their kingdom, basically, they have an oath gate, which is I forgot what the enemies are called. The singers. Yeah, the fuse and the singers. They're going to come through that and attack them from basically the inside. So Adolin, as a foreign general, essentially gets sent there to advise them and help them because they're the only people that have the experience fighting singers.
He needs to navigate the social aspect of that kind of leadership, and it is a tricky thing. Yeah,
absolutely, and it's so awesome, and it's just like, and it's not that they're like not used to fighting; it's just they're used to fighting other people in other kingdoms. That's where their experience comes from. Mm-hmm. But Adolin is coming in as a specific expert, but that doesn't mean he can come and just run the show. Like, no, that's not his place. So
also him and Yanagon, I really liked their friendship kind of dynamic.
Oh, the Emperor,
yeah, that was
so
incredible.
good.
That was great.
Yeah, basically because they like the Asian people, they make their Emperor kind of like just a symbol, kind of just keep him safe, and he's just like, nah, he needs to be a leader, and leader needs to be.
He also needs to be allowed. He needs to be allowed. He needs to be more than the symbol. And it's like he needs to be
a person as well. Yeah,
yeah. The woman, the vizier of sorts. She's like, and she like how she views him as a son, kind of. And it's like they don't say it, which is great. That's good writing, Brandon. Don't say it every time. But in this, it's like, yeah, no. So she views him as a son, but she also has this weird aspect of guilt because they basically put him up there as a sacrificial lamb for Szeth.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like great thing too. It's just like they want the best for him. They like him as the emperor or king or whatever he is, but they don't have the perspective that Adolin has, being born royalty as well, and he is able to bring that perspective and counsel the young emperor. Not that he technically needed to, but that he just did out of the kindness of his heart mostly, and his empathy, his sympathy.
Yeah, and like he even explained to we've kind of become friends over this like year of fighting and negotiating. And I also like that they kind of I also like that she had the testicular fortitude to kind of call him out on some of his own problems. Like, you're the one who was too cowardly to take the throne when you should have. And I'm like, holy hot damn, that is a really bold move to make there, even if it's very much correct.
So every day they're just taking on waves and waves of singers, and like they have unlimited resources. The humans have very limited resources, and the battle tactics that go behind this are genius, are so fun and entertaining.
And how they change and how it goes back and forth too. It's not just a one-way thing.
The politics that are happening with it, right? Because you got like Adolin, essentially, it was so reminiscent of like hearing stories of like I forgot the French general's name that came to America and basically taught America how to fight. Obviously not exactly the same, but it just was like, you get this foreign general that comes in and becomes like a symbol and like a hero of your people that in your own nation. Just good. And one of my favorite parts too was when he was giving advice about what to do with the singer, and he was a little bit too upfront about it, and he kind of insulted the local general, or that's how I'll call him, the local general,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of overstepped his boundary,
Overstep,
and
for sure. Yeah.
and then kind of lost his ability to give him his advice. Like basically, should have pulled him aside instead of just like giving his idea up front.
Yeah, yeah. It's okay
And-
to say to question someone's tactics, but not
Yeah.
someone in charge of an army on the cusp of a very dangerous invasion in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Adolin.
And he's like, well, it's like, yeah, technically Adolin knows best, but that doesn't mean that he can just overstep the stuff. And he's just like, once it happens, he's like, oh, you're such an idiot, Adolin.
I also like that he didn't let the chick just become a warrior, like just because she's fierce, she's strong, slay queen. No, he's like, yeah, you're a little girl and you're gonna get fucking killed and get some other people killed if I put you.
Oh wait, I'll get to that. You talking about the messenger?
Yeah.
Who was that character? I just remember that she like this one part of her being a messenger.
She was a girl pretending to be a boy so that she could volunteer.
I'll get into that.
Yeah.
That was
There are problems there, but
the
I like
worst
that
part about this story was that back-to-back part with that whoever that girl was. But no, so the general and like the fight happens, and like the plan that the local general did just didn't work, but like he adapted and he changed, doing
He's
different
a good
stuff.
general. He just didn't know.
And then the emperor's like, or he's like, wow, we shouldn't. Or one of the other generals like, we should have listened to you. You obviously know better. Like this other general, just the local general screwed up and was bad. He's like, no. He did great. Like with his knowledge and everything, he did great. He adapted. He did everything he should have. This was awesome, and he just like praised him as much as possible. Because the other thing is too is like, would they have been better off listening to Adolin? Yes, but at the same time, it's like they're not just gonna the people of Asia, whatever. They're not just gonna respect and listen to
people
Adolin.
of Asia,
whatever it's called. Adolin needs this general. Like he needs this general because they're going to listen to him.
They are going
before they're going to start listening to him after.
Like they will
not
gain
even 10
respect.
days.
Like Adolin will gain their respect, but we don't have time for that in this kind of
exactly.
situation.
And that dynamic that's put in there so good, and so it just worked out so well.
Also, maybe those consequences will be wholly done away with at some point, but there were Adolin, there are major consequences for the result of this fight. Thousands of good men, women, and children are killed. Thousands. Yeah. The city is wrecked, and Adolin loses his damn leg.
Yeah, he loses his leg at some point, which we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
but just at least something happened, right? But it's another great moment is some point after a huge victory, he's like, okay, he went and gave his shard blade to one of the local soldiers, and it's just look, there's this thing in the military. There's not many things you can do to uplift people, because you can't just randomly produce food to give people food or whatever, but giving them something that brings them honor, like holding a shard blade. It's a small gesture, and it's been done and mentioned before in previous Stormlight things, but it's that little gesture is huge. And I was in the military, and it's the things we do to put a little ribbon on our fucking thing, and that's all we get.
Fucking insane.
It's like we put so much meaning into this little stupid fucking piece of cloth.
It probably costs 18 cents to make in Taiwan or wherever they do it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have a fucking couple dollars in actuality, but it is a small gesture that officers can do, and they always fucking forget to do all the fucking time. Is give your soldiers some rewards for doing some good stuff, right?
Well, yeah, it's also the soldiers, civilians, everything that's going on here. This feels like the Battle of Helm's Deep of Stormlight. That's what this battle feels like.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good comparison, actually. It's desperate. Kids are having to fight. It's a very bad time. I have one thing that I like, but I also hate.
What's that?
And so I like that Maya has partially healed and is becoming more capable, more like her old self through their bond, because of him continuing to humanize her and give her his perception of her is part of what's giving her life back. I like that. I also like how long it has taken for that to happen.
Yeah. I know.
You know exactly where I'm going. I don't like how out of someone's ass every sword and armor is suddenly able to do the same thing. I like
we'll
the
get to that.
idea. I just wish it had taken longer. I don't know. I don't know how it would have worked.
Okay, so real quick, two things I want to mention, because you mentioned that girl that was like the messenger. There was like back to back, just like this absolute slop of story writing. You have somebody coming in who's like, "Hey, I'm going to be a smith, I think, or something like that, right?" He's like, "Well, that's a man's job." He's like, "I hope you're not going to be like embarrassed or whatever doing a man's job." And she's like, "Whatever. What are you talking about? I'm legally a man. Here's my paperwork." And I'm like,
"Oh,
they put a fucking trans." I'm like, let's make this a little bit realistic. Can we ground this a little bit? If somebody did that, it was like I have legal paperwork saying I'm a fucking gender that I'm pretending to be. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I don't think I can trust you being around anything sharp. Get the fuck away from me.
That I'll have to talk to you about this later. But like in my own one of my own fantasy worlds, there is something similar, but it's very, very different and it's very specific. But we can talk about that later. But anyway,
well, it's just one of these things that takes you so out of it. You're like, we have this like, people dying.
Oh, there's
like,
so much of that.
Like
there's
all
so
this stuff, and they're like, let's talk about let's throw this little nugget. Like, hey guys, the Asian people are very accepting of the trans people. It's like, all right, they have it built in.
As long as it's legal. As long as it's legal. Do you have a permit? Do you have a permit to be a man?
Oh my god! It's just like, no, let's not go down this road. Stop. And I had a long discussion with one of our co-hosts where, with the fantasy settings, it's impossible to have a trans like type of situation character and not have it be woke, because that is just straight up messaging propaganda being thrown into the reader.
I think there's a way to do it, but it's very like old school mythology. And it's like we could talk about that too a little bit at some, like more down the line, but it like weird ideologies and like sexualities and gender nonsense has happened in the past, but it's always been in a time of plenty and of peace, and it almost always leads to bad things. But
that's the problem. It doesn't happen in these.
It doesn't happen during the apocalypse.
Right,
which essentially,
and even before the apocalypse, though, it's always been really hard on Rashar because of all like the way their life is, the way the world is built.
Has been
but
hard.
This was such a pathetic, like little virtue signaling bullshit that Brandon threw in there. Yeah. It was so dumb. And then right after, you have that part with the messenger that's like trying to pretend to be a boy, which that story.
I'm okay with that.
Mulan's great. It's a fantastic story. That's great. But I'm like, that's not my problem with it. It was immediately after the trans character, and so I'm already rolling my eyes. And then she's talking to this general, complaining about like, I want to be fighting. I don't want to be throwing, sending messages. And then he talks to her and tells her how important of a job it is. And I'm like, bro, you're talking to a general right now. Shut the fuck up. Take that backhand, slap her across the face. I don't know if you just heard me. I said, send the fucking messages. You have a fucking job to do. People are dying. Look at that guy. Look at him. His eyes are open. He ain't blinking. He's dead.
She's also not a soldier, which is why he wasn't so harsh. I think if it was a soldier acting like that, Adolin would have not. No.
Look, it's like that whole zone is going to become more of a militarized type of area, right? So, I don't know what rank Adolin technically was in this, but he's really fucking important, right? So
he's technically a high prince. He's technically a high prince. That's technically what he is.
Right, yeah, he's a high prince of somewhere else. It's just like, there's one of these things, right? And this is a little bit more detailed, but it's like Brandon knows better. It's like, all generals have aide-de-camps, and aide-de-camps are going to make sure that people that shouldn't be talking to the general aren't wasting their time. It's basically what the Emperor,
I knew those people existed. I just never knew what they were called. Yeah.
No, and it's not just the aide-de-camps. It's also the sergeants and everyone else that works closely with the general.
I assume like
the staff secretary
as well, and a whole bunch. Like I assume like there's a whole team of people between the general and just your.
But it's not even. It's built into the system. Every NCO, staff NCO, everything, they all know. It's like you don't just jump to the other rank. It's like, okay, you got this more civilian person, which, sure, they're at home base. Maybe there's a civilian, but like there's going to be middlemen. You're not going to waste the time, the general, to like talk to the person transporting the letter, whatever. Yeah, it was dumb. It was annoying. I'm like, you need to backhand this person, and they need to shut the fuck up and stop bitching about sending mail.
Yeah. So okay, real quick before we get to the end of this storyline, you have they've broken in, like they're conquering the city. Things are looking very desperate. The army is not there, but then they are given a temporary reprieve from the onslaught and given enough time to like kind of collect themselves and maybe like fortify themselves. And that is given by my man Taln. He goes through the wall. He literally just like faster than the eye can see, as described in the book, is through the wall, and there's like a 7 or 8 foot wide hole there, and he just grabs whatever piece of lumber he can and starts slaughtering like these powerful enemies. Like, I'm like, this is who he is. I love this character, and I love that we finally got to see him do something besides be crazy.
It's like I almost want to talk about, like, just keep talking about Adolin, because it's just like you also have these moments where like they're so whittled down that he's getting like sent on the front line because he had his leg taken down. So he's talking about the trouble of being a spearman and also not being trained to be a spearman, and how grueling it is, and how like they're expending all this energy to, you know, just to last to the break. He's like, all I can think about is that break, and I'm like, I'm in Adolin's feet reading this. I'm in it. I'm like, this is so good, and like eventually they break in, and he's like, I can pretend to be dead. That's probably my best option. And then he's like, no, I'm not gonna sit idly. I'm gonna get up. He goes to fight. He takes down some people, and they're like, before he can get taken out, the Emperor comes looking for him because he's like, nah, we're not like leaving Adolin behind. Like, we built this relationship together. We're gonna make sure that I'm not leaving. I'm not going to safety until Adolin comes with us.
Yonaguni
like,
comes out like,
great.
bro, where you at?
But this is the moment. This should have been the moment that we didn't get. That it should have been, oh, the Emperor came to save him, and then the Emperor is now in trouble. And then you know what should have happened?
He could have said
he should have hurt. Well, his spren was off trying to get the other spren, right? Which was a little bit stupid, but whatever. The spren finally gets back in distance, and he's like, you can summon me now. And he's like, we need help. We need backup. I'm sorry, Adolin, we don't have any backup. And then he's like, no. And then it's like, say the words. And then, like right as everything's about to be doomed, he says the words, and you're like, oh, this is awesome, but it's also only the first oath. It's not that much. You say the words, the second oath. And then it's like, oh shit, it's still not enough. Say the words. Say the words. Say the words. And he says all 5 oaths all in one go, and just takes out everything, like, pretty much, and saves the day. That would have been the most epic, great moment fucking ever. Tell me I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. I disagree. I like what I like this. I like this struggle to the end mentality.
Struggle to the end, to the last little point, and then I'm sorry. It'd be cool to see somebody says
it
all
would be
5
cool,
oaths
but
right
but we've seen that. We've kind of seen that before. I'm okay with what happened to. I'm okay with his final fight. His final fight is incredible. Like, he is like on the edge of, like, he's barely making it.
I had problems with his final fight. It really feels like he was written to be to say the oaths. He was going to become a Radiant. I know Brandon wants the character to have one that's not a Radiant. I get that. I understand that. I just feel like the way Adolin's story is going,
he's the only one he's the one who should have been a Radiant more than he
just should. And it's like, and I think coming to reconciliation with his father and like letting go of his troubles with his father, I think that could have been the moment of where he said the oaths.
Except that he never did. His father fucking dies.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Spoilers, by the way, for anyone.
Spoilers, yeah.
Hasn't heard the last 3 times.
I felt like they're like I get it. Well, like, I'm not mad at not having him say oaths, but it's fine. Whatever.
You sound pretty. You sound like the Baka, like, anime girl.
Well,
whatever.
Well, no, that's just me. That's me wanting to write the story. That's how I would have done it. But it's like, just because that's how
it doesn't mean that's better. It's just what you would have wanted.
Exactly. And
I understand.
And so it's just like, that's not legitimate criticism. I still think that would be something. But
I have something like that for one of my favorite books too. It's like, you could have this could have been the end here. It would have also been great.
Well, also his spren is a honor spren, and I'm like, when I found that out, even I think it was before, I'm like, man,
Adolin's spren is not Adolin's spren is not Maya's not an honor spren.
I thought she was.
No.
What is she?
Fuck. What is she called? It's like, she's one of the spren of like cultivation, but like partially cultivation. Like, she, like, when they're in healthy condition, they're supposed to have like green vines, like making a vine.
That's
I don't
a
really
cultivation one.
Yeah,
I think. Well, I was gonna say, I feel like Adolin would be best as like a stone ward or a Ashbringer, because especially since we don't have like a main character that are any of those, and it'd
That's
be good.
true.
Be good to have one of those aspects.
Yeah. Well,
and
like,
it's like
did you
Ashbringer, like
did you ever take
like,
the rating test like on the website?
Yeah, it's stupid though.
What were you? What were you?
I don't know. I think I've got a couple different answers, but I'm like I disagree with it. I think I've gotten like Windrunner and Skybreaker or something like that. I'm like, no.
There's
No.
no Skybreaker in me. I hate rules.
Yeah.
Let's see, but I was like,
Well, it's
very
one of those
high
things you
with
take.
Windrunner,
You answer one question a certain way, and it's like that's who you are. It's like no, I'm not.
I disagree. That's so Windrunner of you.
Well, okay, so there's a whole thing going on with one of the fused is kind of like it's like the big baddie for Adolin. I didn't really care for him so much, but he does like so. Adolin lost his
I liked that. I liked that fused personality. I liked his personality.
I was fine with him. It wasn't like
he's not the biggest bad in the world, but he also wasn't facing one of the best. He was facing Adolin, who was so like beaten down.
Well, he has Adolin's armor essentially, and then he goes to fight Adolin in like an aluminum like
the aluminum lined room. He set that up so far in advance too. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, so that means Adolin can't summon his blade. But then the sprint armor as they're fighting, the sprint armor transfers to Adolin. Because
it was his armor, and he talked to it one time.
And I'm like, no! No! That's so dumb!
I'm okay with that happening if you set it up like with Maya. He was talking to her for like many, many books before she ever had any. Yes, it
was so poorly executed, and then because they're trying to retake the capital again, like the throne room.
You know what it felt like? Sorry, but you know what it felt like? It felt like the end of Thor: Love and Thunder, that fucking bullshit movie, where all the kids get the power of Thor all of a sudden in that bullshit final scene.
Well, I was gonna say it's such a Power Rangers moment. It was such a Power Rangers moment. They so the Spren was on the mission to get the other Spren, and they all come. They're like, oh yeah, we're willing to help. And then now all these people have a bunch of armor and sword, sharp blades, and they're able to retake it because they have all this incredibly powerful armor and blades, which was just unearned, poorly executed, and just the wrong way to end this amazing, fantastic story of Adolin.
I'm even okay again, like with the Kaladin. I'm even okay with the status of the end. I just wish that we got there in a
the unoathed, because Adolin goes on this whole speech about how he
promises are better than oaths, guys.
Yeah, he hates oaths, but he can make a promise.
A massive 2-story dump on the oaths. But promises, those are legit.
Difference. Hey, it was such a bullshit speech, and like he tries to convince you, being like, "Oh no, it has a significant difference," and it's like, "Shut up, shut up."
Can we go back to I don't know, dude.
What was his Spren's name?
Maya Lauren.
May.
Lauren. I don't know how it's spelled. I don't read these books very much. I usually listen to them.
Yeah.
Partially because they're so bloody long, but
oh, she is a cultivation Spren. Okay.
I thought
I'm cool with that. I'm cool. See, that was I just didn't want him to be another Windrunner. I just feel like Adolin wouldn't fit him being a Windrunner. I'm okay with him being an edge dancer because he's got that finesse. So that's why I said Ashbringer. You know, I feel like Ashbringer would be really good for him.
Yeah. But okay, so that any more thoughts before we move on to we have basically 2 other groups we got to move on.
Not as bad as the others, but you had one of the best stories ever, and really by so much, and it's just you kind of fumbled the bag right at the end with the messaging about the unoathed.
I'm willing to forgive that because this is again the best story in this.
Well, yeah, you can forgive it, but I'm going to criticize it hard as hell because I'm just like that Power Ranger moment. Come on,
he was this close to greatness.
He was supposed to say an oath. Come on.
Again, I think the scene you haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder because you don't hate yourself.
I did. And the good fight that happens, or the fight that happens in the end, I fell asleep right before that.
Oh no!
Never went to watch it again.
Spoiler: all of the children that were captured, all of the children that were being held.
Yeah,
I fucking cannot stand any part of that scene. These kids all of a sudden all have 35 kids have Thor powers for no because Jane Foster said so. I don't know, dude. I hate that movie.
So what do we do? I think we do Dalinar as last. We'll do like Dalinar and we'll do Dalinar.
It's going to be like we're going to have. So we have two sections left. We have Dalinar and his group, and then we have Shallan and the gays. That's our second group.
And the order of the gays.
Shallan and the Knights Radiant.
So it's just like official. Like if you're a truth watcher, you're a butt pirate too. Oh, yeah, that's just canon. Anyone who took that test and got truth watcher for which order?
Fucking Shallan, like creepily watching them, being a like little.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
She's being a giggling little ally. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Look, I know. Like, I already got one comment about being like, Brandon Sanderson's done so much romance in his stories before, and now you have a problem with it because it's a gay couple. I'm like, no, because it's such virtue signaling bullshit, and it was done that's poorly.
I'll say something bold. I do have a problem with it being gay because partially because it's that poorly done, partially because of who he is. And it doesn't make sense.
Well, the overall messaging of it, with them being truth watchers, and there's a fucking line. There's a line in there when he's like holding hands with his boyfriend, where it's like, we are progress. We're like, they're the order of progress or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, no.
I forgot about that. Holy crap.
And it's like this whole dude. It's so much worse than you could think with the messaging being shoved down. It's like so.
That's not the only thing that's being shoved somewhere.
Like, I'm sorry. It's like.
Uh-oh, I lost you. There you are.
And also, too, it's like it has to be the other racial like like how do we even know?
You know these two weird. Weird loners, like abnormal loners. What if they were just like fucking each other?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah. What you ever wonder what it's like to have gay sex with a crab?
It's like, dude, thank God Dalinar dies at the end before he found out his son is fucking a crustacean.
You ever watched Little Mermaid? Does Sebastian do anything for you?
What if I told you that that other crabs didn't like him?
Oh my God, we're like never like that whole thing. There's so much to talk about on that one part of the story.
It's like Little Mermaid. It's like Flounder and like Sebastian have a gay romance.
Because look, I mean, like they're so with Shallan's story, which is kind of separate from this, but like the entire time they're in the spirit realm, and I think the spirit realm, that's another topic where it's like that was mishandled so bad.
I like some things, but I did not like how it was handled. I've seen spiritual realms handled well in stories. And this one, it like the way it's described is awesome. The way it's executed is dog shit. I'm sorry.
Well, also like it's been hinted at.
It's a hard thing to handle. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It like doing a spiritual realm properly, very hard thing to do, I think.
Well, yeah, we've been wondering the whole time what it's going to be like. It's been this mystery. It's been this lead up to like what it's going to be like. Shadesmar is really cool. But I was going to say with Renarin, it's like he's been hinted at being probably going to be like the most important character in one of the books, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's able, like, they can't tell time, they can't predict the future when he's around. That's like
except for Dalinar because Wit gave him a handy dandy watch. Yeah.
So, I just the Truth Watchers are going to be more important, and I don't like that. I don't like that because of what this very specific messaging that's thrown in there and what it means. It's just not. Like, no, please don't.
Second oath, yes.
Here's the thing, dude. Like, people are allowed to have their preferences, right? And if you're like, I don't want to read a book where it's just we're gonna watch a gay romance, right? Because that's my preference, right? I just don't. And it's like
people will call you whatever. I don't give a shit.
Whatever. But it's like this is written by a Mormon. He's mentioned before that he's not gonna have that stuff in the story. So it's kind of like, okay,
this feels like
switchy.
This feels like two things. It feels like the influence of a lot of the beta readers and alpha readers. That's one. Yeah. Two, I think some of his family members are into that stuff, like very woke nonsense. That's two. Mm-hmm. And then I think the publisher was pushing that as well, very heavy on this book.
Oh, probably.
And like we're left with two choices here, like two things to believe. One, Brandon is not for this, and he was bullied or allowed himself to be bullied into it and has just like cucked to it, basically. That's one option. The other option is that he is just down with all of this stuff. Given his belief system, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That's kind of what we're left with.
Look, you're allowed to not want to read certain type of stories, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't mind having reading about a gay relationship, and I always point to Song of Ice and Fire when it's done in there. I think it can be done in ways that I would enjoy, right? But there's a certain thing that goes about doing it where I'm like, you can't just have like that's the other thing. It was so mishandled, even if you are like, you know, super pro, whatever, LGBT, whatever. Like, this is just a mishandling it because it's like you can't just be like, oh, they're gay and everyone's accepting it. And in the world that's built like this, I covered in my other video a little bit. But like, you guys have a whole system.
I will push back on that. The world is not accepting of it. Shallan, the artist, multi-personality weirdo, is okay with it. That's the only character who really knows by the end of this story.
I feel like I don't know. That was a little bit confusing because I felt like everyone knows. Like, it didn't feel like it was like this big secret.
No one knew at the end because it was developing in this book while they're.
Is it okay? Because I'm like, well, then why? How come they? Oh, we forgot to mention that Dalinar's like, hey, Kaladin, can you be my son?
My other son likes stuffing it in the crab cage. Can you be my replacement son?
my other son's loving that crab Sebastian.
I'll show you.
No, so that's what I'm saying. Dalinar must have known, right? Like, why else would he give up on his...
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think it was just he needed another name in succession. I like that aspect. I like that Dalinar and him talk about that.
Well, I'll take back that criticism then, but I still feel like it's just like it has to, because they have mentioned it briefly and before, and it was one of those moments in the books in Stormlight where you're like, all right, that was kind of woke, but I can ignore it, right? But it's just like, dude, when you're in that big of a position, like in being a prince and everything like that, your marriage is important. You marry a woman.
There's always this romanticism of like royalty, like giving up their ignoring their responsibilities to make themselves happy, and that's not admirable.
It's not right. Like the typical trope of the woman refusing to marry somebody because they don't want to, but that marriage is going to bring food to the kingdom. That's going to keep your people alive.
Now, is that
and you're
fair?
Like, no, I just don't know.
It's not. But is it admirable to do that? Like, put your happiness aside for the sake of other? Yes. And back then, probably necessary. Kind of like in this freaking book. Anyway.
Well, dude, marriage back in that day, it was all about political gain and giving birth to a son that was going to create unity between the kingdoms or whatever lands.
Is docking considered unity? I'm just curious.
All right, let's talk about the actual story, right?
Thank God Dalinar dies so that we didn't have to watch him go through a Kaladin arc after realizing Renarin like all you can eat crab buffet.
Anyways, but yeah, no. So they get into the spiritual realm because they got this whole plot going on with the Ghost Bloods. They're trying to unleash one of the Unmade that's imprisoned in this spiritual realm, and I kind of just didn't give a shit about this. The Ghost Bloods, I feel like, have been mishandled for just a long time.
Because of who we know who their leader is, and he's not down with a lot of the things they've been doing in this book.
It's just the connection is cool, but besides that, it always kind of feels like we're supposed to be scared about them. They're supposed to be super efficient, but like it feels like Shallan just always kind of wrecks them at every moment.
What are you doing to yourself, dude? Let me see your hand, son.
That's my son. Like, he thinks he's a dinosaur right now. Okay.
To be fair, yeah. No.
At least he's very young. Thinks he's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to go down that road because I'm going to mention that later. So the spiritual realm in general, I just it's lame. So basically, it's all these memories are constantly going past. They set it up as like being the super dangerous thing to go into and to travel.
And then everybody is just okay the entire time.
And like it's basically they are always a person. It works exactly how Dalinar's memories worked, which I don't think they ever mentioned that was the spiritual realm. Did they? They
did. They said it comes from the spiritual realm. That's what they said.
Okay, I guess I just didn't think that's what the spiritual realm was going to be. Was just like acting out all these cases. So like it becomes this whole game of them trying to play the role that they are, which they're using this to kind of.
It's weird because we can't really talk about one of the storylines without touching on the other because they're so interconnected.
They are pretty intertwined. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. It's like they're playing this like try. You have to act your way through this challenge, and I'm like, I don't care about it. This is lame. I don't like the mechanics of the spiritual realm.
I liked that wit in the story. When in the past when they encounter him, he figures out that he's not real and then has an existential crisis. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, it was a coding error, or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. He's like, oh fuck, I'm not real, and there's nothing I can do. Nothing matters. Oh.
Yeah, I kind of. So I mean, both their story plotline and Dalinar's Navani's is all about like trying to figure out the past, which I kind of felt like I'm like, okay, the spiritual realm just became a way to lazily explain the past.
It just became like season 1 of Arrow. Yeah, thank you.
Which I just wasn't a fan of, and I just wasn't interested in. I didn't really care about the Ghost Bloods. Shallan's story, she's still.
I liked the twist. I liked the twist. The final lie.
Yes, I like the twist too, but I'm like, I just kind of didn't care too much about the struggling with the multiple personalities. Again, it just was a little bit.
It wasn't really that for me. I thought this was way better than book 4. As far as that goes.
Yeah, it just was. I'm like, we're still on this, I'm like, but again, I think I still really like Shallan as a character. I don't think this ruined her character or anything. And then we had the reveal.
Book 4 came closer to ruining her character than book 5. I thought her arc in book 4 was unbearable. In book 5, I liked Shallan's arc in book 5 is like she discovers a truth, but it's not as hard as the previous ones, and most of her confrontation is direct with the Ghost Bloods. I like that part. I didn't
like how they just started off with like, oh, you got the 4th ideal. Like it was one of the things you said back in the.
I don't like how casual it was because every other time it's been like you've said an ideal.
I just wish they were more specific, which I did like because I mean I was kind of surprised that she didn't like there wasn't that. I mean I guess it was because she was in Shadesmar when it happened, which makes sense. But I'm like I just would have liked to know which was the lie. I'm sure if we check the wiki, it'll tell us. But I'm like, I don't know. It just was.
I like that there's a major consequence to her not being, where her story ends. Like this journey wasn't without consequence. Like she is separated from the love of her life.
Powers. Powers are dope.
Her powers are cool, and the fact that she is double bonded means that like she has she can break a couple of rules. Well, yeah, it sounds bullshit, but I actually think it makes sense. I think it's a plausible enough reason for her.
Well, what's that big reveal at the end that we got?
With her, first she's pregnant, but that's not the reveal I was talking about. Her mother being a herald. I thought that was brilliant. I really, really liked that.
That was like so obvious, and I didn't see it coming.
It does seem obvious in hindsight, doesn't it? Don't you feel fucking stupid now looking?
Yeah, and this was like my favorite twist. I thought that was a good twist.
That was not every Brandon twist gets me. I've read so many books. It's a structural thing. I see twists coming. This one, I knew her mother was someone, but I didn't think it would be a herald. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then that Shallan is the reason that the desolation started in the first place.
Yeah,
we knew going on that the one herald he never actually broke.
Yeah, I love that. Like the strongest one is way stronger than the rest.
So the mystery has been going in this. It's like, okay, if he didn't break, then how did the desolation start? And it's like, oh, because Shallan killed her mom, and she lasted all of 2 years and then broke. But I was like, that's such a great reveal, and it makes Shallan cooler, kind of. But I just the story, everything else going around that, and kind of how they're telling it through the spiritual realm. I just wasn't a fan of it. You have immortal characters.
I even like. I'll confess. I even liked the reminiscing. Like I like Renarin and
it's something
Rlain. Yeah, looking like kind of observing their past and seeing like I don't know, assessing or getting to relive it and understand it. I don't like the conclusion or what they did with or what he did with it, but I like that idea. I don't hate that idea.
Here's my look, Shallan or her story overall is like decent, and the reveal is cool. I actually didn't catch that she was pregnant. I caught that in other people's reviews, but that's probably a skill issue on my part. That's also dope though. That's a dope situation.
Except that Adolin may not get to meet his kid until his kid's like fully grown. Speaking of which, we'll get to that later. But
yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, no. So I look. I'm a younger brother, so it's just like I always want to champion the younger brother in series. Like Alphonse is my favorite in Full Metal Jacket. Oh, Full Metal Alchemist. Sorry,
Alphonse in Full Metal Jacket. Live, die.
He was a different character in Full Metal Jacket. No, but I always felt like it's just like he's gonna have this epic moment, and we never got it, and it just like
he kind of got it in Oathbringer. I'll give him that. He kind of had that moment in Oathbringer when he killed Underclassed, but
kind of not though. But it just wasn't.
It didn't satisfy. It wasn't like a Kaladin saying the second oath or like Dalinar.
No,
unifying.
And it's just like he's just always been this unlikable character. He's just never had that like growth or anything.
And you really related to that, obviously.
Well, I feel like he took him into this path of being like, oh, we're going to have him be the representation. Let's virtue signal with this character. And I don't feel like that was the original idea for this character. And I feel like it's just
through the power of gay romance, we're going to show the unmade how things can be. I don't know, dude.
It's just like you mentioned this before. It's like, oh, I'm weird, therefore I must be gay. Is kind of how Brandon.
I've said that off stream, but it's kind of how it feels. Like I don't fit into normal society, or my brain doesn't work the same as yours. Therefore, gay.
Yeah.
Blatant homosexual.
Well, see, it's again. That's why I think it is like, oh, I got this one character that's acting weird. Is he just waiting for his moment to become cool, or is he just secretly gay and he's just been in the closet the whole time?
It colors his entire storyline completely different now.
Completely, yeah. I never got like anything that he was in the closet. There was no hints to that.
You could it's kind of like Korra from Legend of Korra. You could infer hints, but there weren't any direct hints.
No. Well, was there something in book 4 that I completely missed? That was.
I think there might have been a couple of there were hints about Rlain for sure, but with Renarin, not maybe in book 4, but none that I can recall. Like nothing directly. I have a vague kind of recollection of it.
Rlain, because I don't know. I guess
with Rlain, they mentioned it before, like when during the mating, when they took mate form, something happened and he was really embarrassed. Now that doesn't mean gay, but
was that in book 4 though?
I think book 3 or might have been book 3 or 4, but yeah, it was mentioned. It was brought up. And that could be a hint, but it also could mean fucking anything.
Well, because I saw fan art like after reading book 4, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Shipping random people now." Like I don't know,
a bunch of freaking like Fujoshis were like begging for it, like salivating over that idea.
Well, yeah, and this book was treating it like it was like this was the obvious conclusion. Like it was like right from the beginning of the story. It was just like, all right, we're these are the two gay characters. I'm like, what?
Oh, do you remember Rushu also in that scene? That was another one of the cringiest parts of the book.
Which one's Rushu?
Rushu is the priest.
Oh, but I don't know if I identify with either gender either.
The siblings like, you're a human. You wouldn't know what it's like not to identify as male or female. Actually, you might be surprised or something like that. It was so
right. It's just stop. The whole fucking like. This is such a retarded fucking logic, dude. I mean, it's my whole problem with all like a lot of this stuff in the first place, where it's just like, dude, there's two genders, right? It's a fucking like one leads masculine, one leads feminine. That's the fucking difference.
And you can have men who are less feminine and women who are more masculine. That doesn't make them gay or make them some weird in between. It just means that they're different
all the time. Fine. Gender and sex was synonymous, and it still is. It's just fucking. Some people are more masculine, some people are more feminine. Like opposing their gender norms. That's it.
Yeah,
like this idea that friends have multiple genders, but you have no sexes. You can't have multiple genders and fucking no sexes. Like you're genderless.
Yeah, like I didn't mind. Like again, all of our like problems, like woke stuff or propaganda, kind of put into this book, like kind of marks like all of this modernist kind of stuff. It was hinted at in a bunch of books leading up to this, but this book is like
Secret Projects.
The Secret Projects, book 4 of Stormlight for sure. Era 2 of Mistborn. Yeah. But again, Era 2 is a bit more modern, so I wasn't as sensitive to that because it was more modern. But this book is like 5 or 6 times more of that stuff than any other book we've had. That combined with the language suddenly becoming more modern, the way the world is, the way people acting becoming more modern, it's not good. It's not why we read fantasy.
Yeah.
It doesn't reach the peaks in quality of previous books. Like
again, it's like my comparison with Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. It's just like it's the difference between it being woke and not. It's like one is forced in there for an agenda purposes to virtue signal, and like a Song of Ice and Fire, it's a part of the story and actually enhances the story. Like,
yep,
it's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. But yeah, I suppose we kind of have to get into Dalinar. We're getting.
Yeah, is there anything? Their story was a whole big fucking nothing, anyways. Besides being like we're the symbol of progress, and like that was like it. Like, I think they discovered some stuff with the Cosmere. I don't really remember. Anything. I'm just like with their story. I don't think it was really actually even important.
Well, it's like every other part of
it.
It's every other part of the story. Everything is synonymous with the things from the both sides. Suddenly are synonymous with one another. There's things in between. It's like you have like maybe 4 or 5 layers in the original like parts of Stormlight. Now there's like 19 or 20, and everything means less because of this.
My big problem with Rlain is my big problem with Venli. My big problem with all of the singers. They suck. They're so boring. All their personalities are so boring. And
I really know what bugs my asshole a little bit is I really liked Rlain before this book. Like I liked the reluctant hero who's like I am the other. I'm living among these people who I have nothing similarly culturally, and I'm here because I did what was right, and I'm going to continue to fight the evil that is Odium.
Yeah, but the one thing I really liked him early on in the story, but it kept on being like this whole virtue signaling bullshit with it, like, oh, but they desecrated my people's bodies, and it's just like, dude, just get over it, man. Get over it. You're part of the bros. Like, be part of the bros. Stop not trying to be part of the bros.
They don't know everything about your culture and your physiology and how you work, but they're trying.
I know, and that goes to like more of like cultural, like, you know, woke bullshit thing, virtue signaling. That's kind of how I saw it a little bit. But anyways, so the one other thing I want to mention, which is pretty important, because you think we're not getting a fucking trans allegory with Rlain? He was already wearing like girl clothing most of this time.
He talks about how the bond with his friend allows him to be more his own personality, regardless of the form that he takes.
Bro, they have light weaving. They have light weaving, and their light weaving is different because they can see people's true selves. Which I'm just like, oh, please. And I'm like, you trying to tell me that he's not going to be going around and making permanent light weaving and transgendering fucking
also,
people.
Doesn't that make
and specifically himself
undermine the whole gay thing? If that's the case, it doesn't make any.
Well, we go back right to Mr. Garrison.
I think we've said as much as we need. Like,
I know, but I got to put it out there that the end conclusion in the next Stormlight series, we're going to have Rlain talking and going through fucking hours of discussion about how he identifies as a woman.
Did you just say you combined their names? You said Renarin.
Whatever. They're docked anyways. Like
Renarin plus Rlain equals Renarin. Yeah. Yes,
he's 100% gonna light weave himself as a fucking woman, and then we're gonna get a whole fucking therapy speech and dialogue about how he's.
Are we gonna see Renarin like pretending to be a hetero couple with a light weaved?
You think that's not gonna happen? You think that's not gonna happen, dude?
Oh,
and that's what I'm saying. I think he's gonna go around to being like, "Oh, you identify as the sibling that's non-binary? Let me make your form match your soul.
Have a kid somehow through magic nonsense."
Dude, it was in Trust of the Emerald Sea where they're like, "Oh, it's so painful for somebody's like outer like body not to match their soul or something." It was something like that, and I was like, "Bro, they got this."
I thought that was referencing him being a rat in that book.
Yep, it was, but it was at the same time. It was also him throwing in trans allegory, which is what they're going to do with fucking Truth Watchers. I'm telling you.
Anyway, dude,
that's why I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with the
Navani and Dalinar, and I guess we have to address the gods in this as well.
Do you want to cover Sigil first?
Sigil?
Because he had a pretty good story.
I really liked his story. I liked his strategy. Like he came into his own in this book. This is the best showing of him.
It was put in charge of the Bridge 4 or whatever, the Windrunners.
And he freaking excelled. Like he was embodying himself and Kaladin, and he was being a goddamn hero. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, it was another story about trying to be tactical, like tactical genius and blah 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 blah. And it was done well. There's good fights. The Moash came in. Moash, kind of, I think, shitty character now. I think
he's become a shitty character.
Yeah.
No, the whole story they did with him,
hard.
like where it's like, oh, I care now, but I'm still going to kill my friends. Fuck off, dude.
It's just kind of annoying. It's just like he doesn't know what to do with them. He's just kind of, I don't know.
I feel. Am I the only one who feels like the original Contest of Champions was either going to be Kaladin and Moash or Dalinar and like Odium? Was it like I feel like those were supposed to be the original clash, and then we got whatever the hell this story was.
We'll get to it, but I don't know. Just Moash is just nothing. And
he was a dick, and he killed some more characters that I love. Fuck him. Anyway,
yeah. And then he was about to kill Sigzil's Spren, and then Sigzil undid his oaths in order to save his Spren, which I like, but I also kind of was like, does that make sense?
It makes more sense than the other oath breaking that happens in this book.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I like that move for him to save his Spren. I think that's good. I think it's honorable. But I don't think you can, because it's more than just saying the actual words, right? You can't just, they've acknowledged, you can't just say the words and, you get the oath. I don't think you can just say the words, and they said that he meant it to break his oaths. But I'm like, he's literally he's trying to protect somebody. It's like
he's still trying to protect.
Oaths.
It doesn't really break his... I don't think you can just break your oath by like, oh, hey, I break my... It's like, I declare bankruptcy. It doesn't work, dude.
Yeah. So I think that was my problem with it. So I was kind of like, I like it from a storytelling perspective, but I don't think it works from a lore perspective.
I agree. I like the storytelling aspect of it for him and his character and his friend, who I liked his friend. She was dope. Yeah. Like, she was calculating and interesting, kind of like he was. And I thought that was
overall great. They fail. He meets Testament at the end, which there's nothing really about that. He meets
not Testament. No, that's Shallan's extra friend.
Whatever.
He meets 1, 2, 3, 4, or that's racist Kaladin, the Skybreaker. Oh yeah. The one who got rejected by Szeth. And we know now, because of Sunlit Man, is going to have his oath broken again in the future by Sigzil.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, they told us in Sunlit Man that he broke oaths twice, but I don't know. It's weird. It makes sense that he's in Sunlit Man. He's so old because of things that happen, and also the fact that he gets the Dawn. What gives him the Dawn Shard of Exist? So that I guess he's.
I think it's only 4. Isn't it only 4 Dawn Shards that exist?
Right, but they have different powers.
Aspects,
so the one that whatever that woman, the wheelchair girl has, that boring.
Person. Her having that was really interesting. I actually didn't mind that part. It was another level of
hers is changed.
Story-wise, I didn't mind that. I like that scene of her and Wick meeting, and that
Sigzil's is exist. So it's core things to life or whatever. So I'm assuming, because one of them is really opposing, and probably the part that killed the original god, which is probably die or something like that.
Like non-existence or something. Something brutal. Yeah,
death. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, that's Sigzil's story. We don't really need to go over it. They lose the battle. But it was all decent.
But then they kind of cheat their way to victory at the end there. So the humans lose the Shattered Plains, but the listeners get it, which was
yeah. Whatever. I don't care about the listeners. I just said both. So
I do. It's fine. Well, I understand that you don't. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
But so there's all that. Now we have to go into Dalinar and that whole thing. I like how active Wit was in. I like how active Hoyd or Wit was in this book. I like how involved he was.
Yeah.
It makes sense that he was suddenly more involved.
And Gavinar, right? Is his name?
Gavinar. Yeah, Gavinar.
So the grandson. They're all in this. So again, they get stuck in the spiritual realm because of something the Ghost Bloods did. They were originally going into the spirit realm just to test it real quick. I kind of liked how they were the bondsmith made a bond with a clock, so he's able to, keep track of like time relatively in the spiritual realm. Like the elements of the mechanics were kind of interesting. It's just it didn't play out well. So they go there just to do a quick test because they have 10 days, but that can end up only being like an hour for them.
Because the spiritual realm time is relative. To a major
could be super long, could be super short.
I like that aspect of the spiritual realm. That is correct in my mind. How a spiritual realm should be.
Yeah, there's some good things about it. I just didn't like it. It's just like they just keep going back into scenes.
The way he used the spiritual realm for the most part.
Yeah,
I have something else.
And just to tell story, like just to tell stories that the Stormfather, the worst fucking spren of all time,
the biggest lying spren of all time. He should have been
the worst trope, dude. The worst trope. It's like I'm gonna not tell you information because I think it'll help. It's just like, but you're being retarded. In no sense does it make to hold back information besides that the author wants to do it. Just incredibly lazy writing by Brandon. Incredibly lazy.
Yeah. That being said, that reminds me. I did like the Gavinar.
I think.
No, not Gav, because that's the grandson.
Oh.
What? Oh, Christ, what is his name?
Well, so they're playing out all the scenes like throughout history. Like they see like they're trying to figure out the first desolation is part of that.
They're trying to figure out when Honor died, and so they
when and how Honor died, and I'm still confused by that. Is there anything to talk about really besides that? Like Navani really didn't really play much of a role in this book.
She played a role. She was helpful,
supportive,
and I like her character, so I don't mind. Oh yeah, we completely forgot about Yasna. Like we haven't even.
Oh no, I didn't. I'm just gonna bring it up at the end. Fucking worse.
Real quick, my video about all of my worries for this book relating to her.
Yeah.
None of that was relevant. She was a loser who lost in this book. And she deserved to lose, and she lost.
You made me think, right? You made me think. So let's just talk about Yasna, because it's not much happens, right? She has a debate with Odium, and she's retarded. is essentially what we find out. Like all she has to do
is confronted about being a hypocritical piece of shit, and then she loses.
All she has to do is nothing, and then she somehow loses like one of their biggest political allies.
Odium or T Money. He told the truth. He's like, hey. She is going to make my argument for me. She is the reason you are going to side with me. And he was fucking right.
This is supposed to be there. Like Yasna proving how smart she was, and like this is like definitely the most stupid character ever. So Kahuna made a video before this with his worries about Stormlight 5 because he thought it was a book about Yasna, which it wasn't. It was that story.
I did not know that. I was just wrong.
Yeah, so Kahuna doesn't like Yasna historically. I kind of did like Yasna because of how she was in book 1. And then you mentioned how she's kind of girl bossy. She kind of just everybody talks about how smart she is, and she's not. Or she doesn't do anything to prove it. It's a lot of
telling, not showing.
Telling and not showing. And then I was thinking about that afterwards. I'm like, I think you're kind of right. And then this book just solidifies them. Like when she died in book 1, they should have just kept her dead. I like that.
She would have been. I would have liked her if she was just dead.
Because I mean, that was like an awesome moment. Because like you have this character that you talk about is like just so powerful and all this.
Also,
and you just killed her like
also
nothing.
She broke up with Wit, the equivalent of like by an email, basically.
It was such a stupid, pointless relationship in the first place. It was like I don't know what I'm doing.
Like Yasna, I could see that. I could see her like I'm gonna just date this person because like I'll gain something from it. Wit. What the hell were you doing with her?
It made no sense. It made no sense in book 4. And so I was kind of like on your side. I just always liked her because how she was in the first book when she like went and like killed those people, which that was used against her in the argument because Odium knows everything that she's done.
Consequences, bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean like dude, I'm like, how can you not argue this? I'm like, are you seriously siding like because like basically he's just trying to win over one of the other like kings of one of the big pieces of land or whatever by convincing him that like the Rosharans are a terrible or the Kolins are a terrible ally, and Odium proves it. But I'm like, all he had to say is like, you do realize he's Odium, right? Like he's the embodiment of hate. Like you might not like me, I might be shady. But I'm not the embodiment of hate. And then you'd be like, got a good point there. I don't know if I want to side with the embodiment of hate.
But at the same time, he did he was kind of, Odium or Latodium T Money, he was kind of right. They
also didn't need to have the debate.
Like, it's worse for the world, but it's better for her people individually to side with him. It did make sense by the end.
No, it didn't. It didn't, because
morally
that means you have to trust him and trust. Like, all you have to do is convince him. Like, we're talking to the embodiment of hate. I'm just saying, I don't think you guys are going to be allies very long.
I agree with you personally. I'm saying from the perspective of the queen.
I get it. But anyway, it doesn't matter, because all of her debate tactics, which is terrible.
She loses harder than anyone in this story.
So bad.
So much.
It's so bad, because she's trying to be like honest points.
I felt gratified in my every opinion I've ever had about her. I'm like, that's what you deserve.
Well, not to mention,
I'm voting for the embodiment of hate in every scene that they're in.
It's already set up, though, that like she didn't need to have the debate.
Yeah, it probably would have gone better if she wasn't there.
She literally just didn't have to talk to him. I don't know why she was like, I need to prove a point. Like, what? And again, it's more of this like, oh, we talk about how awesome and smart Yesna is. It's like, what the fuck has she done? What has she done?
Got stabbed and lost for a whole book, and then comes back and starts dating an immortal. Yeah, that's her whole deal.
Yeah.
Also, she's taking a giant dump on like Dalinar, one of the best, coolest characters of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Dalinar.
Yeah, I what is there to talk about other besides the
I liked some of the when he was looking into the history of honor, like the man, like Tanavast. I actually liked some of that. I liked the idea that he and Cultivation were like romantically involved before they became shards, and that they chose to continue that against the rules that they made when they shattered him.
We got a lot of Cosmere lore too. We got a lot of
Cosmere lore,
which that was nice. Although I'm quitting, so it doesn't matter.
I'm not quitting yet, but I'm like, dude, I'm at the honor chasm looking down. That's where I'm at right now. Like,
tell me how the trans Truth Watcher scene goes.
Dude, I'm curious about shards like Wit, not Wit, but Whimsy. Whimsy is one of the shards. I'm curious what that is like. How that translates, and then the shard of Valar.
Yeah. Well, we've already had the names, at least if you look on the wiki. I just can't wait to watch all the gender affirmation scenes. Personally,
nothing is more valorous than identifying as a woman.
I also confirmed that the dragons were like a race of like an ancient race,
and that they have a human and a dragon form. I know it's dumb, and it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's a little trope, but I really like that shit, dude.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Well, it's better than him.
I love old school dragon stuff. That's what I like.
Well, it's better than a human being in love with a dragon, what that would insinuate.
You ever see that video about the Dragonborn that was like, oh, it's not that they fought dragons, his whole family line were like dragon prostitutes. You ever see that video?
No, I don't.
It's like, it's like my asshole can stretch wide, infinitely wide, and like my mouth is fireproof, and it's like, I think you guys are dragon prostitutes, dude.
Yeah. One of the things I'm like, God damn you, Brandon. Like, because a lot of his humor just did not work in this. Like, which that's another thing.
That's a fairly.
I forgot to even mention the goober statement that happened with Adolin. That fucking line. Whoever
one.
When he's like trying to explain to, I remember if it was Kaladin or Adolin or whatever, where they're like, "You're a goober. You realize that?" And like, what's a goober? And I'm like, bro. You owe me. Oh. Like I'm earned reparations for that line having been read.
It hurt my ancestors hurt from that line, you know.
Fuck, dude, that's more like modern shit too, right? But I
do think there's a good book in this book somewhere.
It's deep into Ronaldan's fucking butthole. That's where it is.
Why are you combining their names? They're not a celebrity, dude.
I don't fucking care, dude.
Oh.
No, so
hashtag Renarin, Iron Seas.
No, we finally found out what the 16th shard is. You remember it? Like, there's the one shard that we didn't know, and you know what it was?
I don't remember.
Well, it's lost, right? And you know what's lost? Reason is lost. And I'm like,
oh my god,
I get what you did there, Brandon. Ha 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 ha. That doesn't explain anything.
Was he talking about how we've lost reason to continue in the Cosmere, or just like no?
No, it's like all reason is lost. Yeah. So I feel like that was a big joke, but which I was like, huh.
How do you feel about the twist that I spoiled for you at your request?
Yeah, because I was really far in, but I'm like, whatever, twist it or tell me what it is.
I asked you like 3 times if you wanted to know.
So this is the
a
exact
really
same thing
good
as the
twist.
heralds, like Kaladin becoming a herald, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool. I remember I told you I was like, oh, that's a really good twist because basically,
he did nothing with it, the whole thing, and I don't.
It did nothing. We're gonna get to that. Basically, we find out who Odium's champion is, and Odium's champion as a twist. I'm like, that's fucking cool.
That's
but
dope.
Again,
How he did
nothing with it and took away all consequence. But yeah, okay, let's just talk about the Death of Honor, and then we'll get into that, and then we'll wrap this up, right? So honor, the Death of Honor, because that was like the big thing that happened in the vision that they're trying to get to.
The power itself is not very doesn't honor that, like it says on basically the meaning is honor is bad. Like the power of honor is bad. It's not a good thing. That's kind of the conclusion you're forced to draw upon at the end of the story.
Yeah, that's the conclusion, but the whole thing is that like honor died because the holder of honor did something extremely unhonorable.
Yeah.
Like
when he went against an oath, but it was still
they went to go do making an ally with one of the fused or the unmade.
No, with one of the unmade, and then they betray that when they made a deal with Odium.
Yeah, but I'm like, how can the embodiment of honor do this? Because the bondsmith was like, honor told me to do this, and I'm like, I thought that the power like kind of takes control of you after a certain amount of time. Like you've been the embodiment of honor for a very long time now. How can you do something so unhonorable? Like, how does the power let you even do that?
Well, I think that like that comes down to an aspect of how godhood works in the Cosmere, and it's something I've had an increasing problem with.
Yeah,
I don't like how godhood and its transference to different individuals works in the Cosmere.
Yeah,
I hate like even the way that our favorite character, our favorite god Harmony, received his power. I didn't like that. That's one of my biggest problems with.
Well, that's another discussion, but yeah, I know. I just didn't like how that went down. It just felt stupid this whole time. Like Storm Father is just acting like the worst character ever, and I think everyone's going to agree on this. That the Storm Father
was being he was being a real Lyran in this book. Yeah,
yeah, and he's just there to keep the characters from learning things. Like they didn't need to go to the spiritual realm. The whole time we found out the Stormfather was there, which was
Stormfather could have just said
he knew the whole time. He knew the whole time, but he's trying to do what he thinks is right, which is just stupid. It was just terrible writing on Brandon's behalf, and it was so unsatisfying, and it just makes you hate the Stormfather. You're just like, okay, the Stormfather's really cool in all these books, and now you're like, okay, the Stormfather's a little bitch. Like that's what it is.
Also,
a loser.
Riddle me this: why can't honor and cultivation? They're 2 shards. They should, by any means, like by any logical metric, should have been able to force out Odium.
It made no sense. It made no sense.
Like they offered explanations.
Let's save that to the
parted. It did not make sense.
Let's save that to the overall Cosmere talk, right? Because that's the other part of like where I'm just like this Cosmere story sucks.
To the Dalinar part of this.
Dalinar
is one of my favorite characters. I do not like how he went out. In some ways, I like some.
So he gets out of he's able to get out of the spiritual realm because I think because honor he becomes honor or
honor Stormfather helps him get out.
Yeah, which is again it's just all bullshit. So him and Navani are out, and they think Gavinar is out, which I thought that was with the twist that you told me. I thought that was kind of stupid. I felt like he should have got kidnapped like last minute before when they got out. And
I do. It would have led to some people guessing what was coming, but
you wouldn't have to guess for long. It's only one chapter, and then
it is. Yeah, it would have added some tension. Like, he has my grandson.
Yeah, that could be
my grand nephew, whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and then so Odium reveals his champion, and it's Gavinar, who's been in the spiritual realm, technically for only like an hour or something like that, but it was 20 years or something like that for him.
Like 10 days, but it's translated to like 20 years.
No, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
I like on paper, I like that. And I even like when he's confronting Dalinar.
Yeah,
about how he was like, you you are responsible for my father's death. Maybe unfair, but for like someone who grew up believing that, I can see that.
Yeah, well, being twisted and tormented and becoming Odium's puppet, it's great. great.
Love
and then
all
now,
of that.
now
Then
Dalinar has to
They
figure out
do fucking nothing with it.
is he going to kill his grandson for the greater good, which technically is the right answer, but at the same time, it's like, how can you expect Dalinar to kill his grandson? And so it's like this conflict that's amazing. And then he takes the easy way out.
What?
So basically, they fight for all of 2 seconds. They clash swords like for 2 seconds, and then he gets frozen. Gavin
like
gets
Podium
frozen.
or Team Money like freezes him. He's like, I don't
Team
give a
Money.
shit. Sorry,
Freezes him. Yeah.
'cause
So okay,
he's
now we're
not
gonna talk.
Odium, but yeah.
We're just gonna talk this out instead of having a big epic fight, like what should be happening.
Like bats, hear me out. The shards are aware of each other. Picture this. Like Dalinar becomes honor. He reaches out. He's like, is there no honor left among the shards?
Mhm.
And then all of the shards come together, and they come together, like, even in a bullshit way, to destroy Odium. But then maybe there's a huge consequence of that for something. Isn't that a better story than what we got here?
Yeah, it needs.
I
It
don't
needs.
know.
The ending need to be catechism. Like it could have been a lot of things. I mean, I think
It
they
felt
could
like
have
a
simply just had Dalinar being like, "I'm too weak," and just lose. Like even with the power of honor, he could be like, "I'm too weak. I can't kill my own grandson," and just lose. That would have been better. But what happens is he takes the power of honor somehow, and then he undoes his oaths. Like everyone else, he undoes his oaths and is like, I quit. I'm not going to fight.
Like, actually, all of that, never mind. Yeah.
I'm getting to the honorable thing. And then it's like, and it's set up as like, oh, it's genius. It's genius. Oh man, Dalinar, because like even Wit has like in the
Wit
epilogue.
has he treats Dalinar like every character is treated Yasna up until this book.
Yeah,
like
he's like, oh my god, he made the perfect decision. So
I can't
smart.
believe he did it. Yeah.
So basically, so then Odium wins. Gavinar did nothing.
Oh yeah, he absorbs honor.
He absorbs armor and becomes retribution, which was kind of cool.
I'm
But at
actually
the same
okay with
time,
that in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you're supposed to be the smartest person, and you never thought that there was a reason why Odium didn't absorb any of the other powers. You didn't think about that for a second. But not to mention, why is absorbing the power like why is absorbing the power like now going to get the other shards to be like, we should do something?
Well,
like
it does.
killing
like absorbing the power also made him obligated to promises made by that part of the power, and his own promises. I see why he did it that way. I don't know. I was very
well. And then it calls into question with the whole Cosmere.
I didn't hate every part of this ending, but I felt very limp dick at the end of Stormlight 5. Isn't that wrong?
It was yes, and then like it creates a time to, because the whole time I'm like, wow, this is the last time we're going to see like all these characters, because we know because of Sunlit Man that like all this time passes. But what happens is that, like, a time dilation happens around Roshar, and basically they time like only like 2 years is going to pass by, and it's going to be like 200 years for everyone else. So that's how they're going to do that. Like tell all these other stories in between, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I this whole explanation
I get it, but it kind of does sound like a bullshit like storytelling device. It's like,
after everything else, yeah, after everything else, and then so I'm like the whole time, and I was thinking this early on. I'm like, I always thought it was like the other shards didn't know what was going on with the other shards, but you're telling me that Odium
they're constantly aware of one another.
Odium killed 3 shards, and then you got 2 shards that are like, hey.
They were too busy porking and making life on a new world to notice 3 shards dying.
No, they did notice. They knew it. They knew that, like, all of them knew 3 shards were dead,
but only when they focused on it. They weren't focusing on it. I was like, oh, now that I think of it, I did notice. Yeah.
Let me finish. Right? They know Odium is damaged. It's 2v1. I don't understand why they can't. Like you mentioned, I don't understand how they can't win. And not to mention,
even if Odium was full health, why can't 2 shards, even weaker shards, together are more powerful? Why could they not do it?
Yeah, this is why it's like the bullshit reasoning, and this is like fundamentally kind of destroys my interest in the Cosmere, because it kind of just all seems like bullshit. And again, Honor at some point gets all the other shards and is like, hey guys, we need to do something about Odium. He's killed 3 other shards, and they're like, we don't have to worry about Odium if he's over with you guys. I'm like, what?
That's very short-term thinking for eternal beings of power.
What? Yeah. Like, what? No, just, you're like, There's like fucking 14 of you guys. Like, just or like 12. Just go and kill him. What's stopping you? He's one weakened shard. Kill him. Like, he's killed 3 of you. This doesn't make sense. And I'm just like, this is, dude, Brandon, what? Like, you're piecing together this puzzle, and this is what you got?
I used to like it, but as I've read more and more Cosmere, I do not like how the system of godhood works. I've decided I do not like it. Like, I suspected that when I read the end of Mistborn Era 1.
Yeah.
But I now know it. I do not like, because remember, even Dalinar gets it because the Stormfather decided it all of a sudden. He has all the memories of Tanavas, and the power has sentience now, so it decides I'd rather do this than die. Yeah, whatever. And then even like the end of Mistborn Era 1, spoilers by the way, he's just like, oh, what if I'm a bald guy? What if I just grabbed that power and grabbed this power? Oh, now I'm the god.
I liked it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, it sucks cock. I don't know. You're smoking something, but
well, everybody disagrees with it. Either way, it's like it's been this whole big mystery, which is going to take forever for us to figure out, is how they killed on Elysium or whatever the original
Adolin.
Yeah. The original god, and how he splintered,
like real omniscient god, which doesn't make any sense.
And I'm just kind of at this point, I'm like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be really stupid, and I think it's going to be some bullshit messaging.
Wit mentioned that some like the power of the Ashbringers or whatever they are, the ones, the ones with division, the power of division, which is like
Ashbringers.
Yeah, and like the power that Szeth has, like set the air on fire. It's like,
no, that's how they killed the planet.
Yeah, but in the book, it's mentioned multiple times. He mentions it at least once. That it's similar to the ability that we use to kill our god. Meaning,
you know what that's going to be? It's going to be divide or something like that. Maybe
something like that.
Because they do mention the power of the Dawn shards is what killed.
You know, it would be so funny, dude. One of the missing Dawn shard. Diversity killed. Diversity killed God.
Wokeness killed God. I'm kind of like, I just lost faith in his storytelling ability to piece together a puzzle. I'm like, this made me lose faith in that. Now I feel like
I've talked about this on a lot of streams. I need to make a whole video on it, but like, there's something called faith in the storyteller, and it's like it's a moment, or it's something that an author does in a given book or in part of a story where you're like, oh, I know who this person is, and I trust where they're taking me. Yeah. This is the first book I've read of Brandon's where I no longer have like that. My faith is not broken, but it's not strong anymore.
Well, if you watch any of our like shows or whatever, we talk about Brandon in such good light all the time because of the stories he's told and everything.
Yeah, Words of Radiance, Way of Kings, those are 3 of my favorite books. Yeah, I adore those books.
And then what most people are going to be taking apart of this is like, oh, it's just because of some representation pulled in, bigoted people, and I'm like, whatever.
They hate
whatever. It's terrible story writing. It's forced in, and that's what it is. You're forcing in this diverse bullshit and shoving it down our throats, and you're not doing it in clever story writing. You're just trying to propagandize us.
Again, last point here. I think there's a few things changes that have happened. I think Brandon, if you ever heard any of your people ever hear this, I think your team of advisors, alpha readers, beta readers, I think there are too many hands in the pie. Publisher, whatever's going on. 2. I think some of your old editors were better editors. I hate to say it, but some of your original books before you lost a couple key editing people were better, and I think they helped make your writing better. And I think if you ever could, you should bring them back because it has hurt. I believe it's hurt your story writing ability.
Well, it's like the biggest red flag, which is just like we kind of were just in such denial about it, like being able to shift Brandon, but like just the sensitivity reader, just as a title. As soon as sensitivity reading gets thrown on anything, you're fucking doomed.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for whatever book you're reading, most likely.
And it's also laughable because like one of the biggest criticisms from big leftist creators is that they're saying that like the way he handled mental illness is like really cringy in this, and it's like, oh, cool. I wonder how much you paid the sensitivity reader to just suck at their job. And it's also, we mentioned Daniel Green, was the one that did that, right? It's like reading his book. What was my biggest complaint is you got all these security guards talking about their feelings constantly, and that was his biggest criticism for this book. So it's even worse than how he did it. I'm like, Brandon, you're supposed to be leagues better writer than Daniel. Like that's not insulting anyone. I'm not trying to insult anyone with that, right?
Again, maybe like
Right.
we don't know the behind the scenes, and we probably won't ever know. But I do wonder, like, how much of this is what he wants versus what has been like pushed. Either way, like you're either going against your beliefs and against the pillars of good storytelling, or you're kind of being cucked into this. And either way it's really disappointing. It's just like, yeah, we
That just makes you a beta cuck.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, I guess like Joe said, we say all these things because we've loved the Cosmere. I have for years. You have for years. And it's just it's not like he's abandoned it. I haven't quite yet. I'm just this I'm right.
I'll say I might read another book or two if it's like,
if you hear good things.
Well, for content creation purposes. If anyone does ever give us any sort of traction and want to hear my opinion on it, I'll probably do it at that point. I don't mind suffering.
We've read The Fourth Wing. We can handle we can handle a little cringe, dude.
I can look, it's like a guilty pleasure is like watching cringe videos, right? It's like kind of the same thing for me. The other thing I kind of want to talk about the overall Cosmere stuff is just kind of how like the revelation of the powers. So I kind of like the idea that it's like their powers are creation, which I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense why you have the stone wardens that have like they're able to form stone and stuff, right? Like it feels very like
or
magical.
Stone,
it feels very like earthbending-y, right? And I'm like, why is this power with that one specific element? It's like, oh, because that's like in the formation of a world, right?
And Roshar is like almost entirely made of stone. I get it. I get it.
Well, but that it seemed like it was basic creations because it originally came from Odium, but then Honor was able to grant the exact same powers. So I thought
it was a war of escalation. They just kept on copying and adapting
It's like basically the most powerful powers you can be granted by a god, but it seems like every single shard is capable of granting those powers
in some form or fashion. And it's like virtuosity we learn about in the Nightmare Painter shattered.
Oh, is that virtuosity?
Yeah, virtuosity shattered herself on purpose. Right. It sounds like, or maybe on accident, but it wasn't done by someone else. She did it, and so
we don't know what the timeline is with that fucking story. So
yeah, we don't. It feels like it's in the future. It is in the future because he turns to stone because he doesn't want to, like, he's not going to allow himself to have his memories stolen again. And so when his
so it's after book 5,
so it's after this, but we don't know by how far.
Yeah, so it could have been another. There's a lot of story that's going to happen between this and Stormlight 6, but it's kind of felt like all the different shards were going to capable of granting different types of powers, but it doesn't seem like that's what it is. It's like, which I'm kind of like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I felt like because like Dominion and stuff, like really, I don't know. I felt like it was like tied into the whatever the shard thing was, and I don't understand how like the shard, some of the powers that are the shards. Like, I don't get some of the reasoning behind it. Like feels like Honor and Odium are like two completely different kind of like concepts. I don't know.
It's like, I don't know, man. It's just like some of the shards we view as good and evil, and I get that he likes to play with that, but like I don't when I think of Honor, I don't conceptualize it as bad. Even like I could picture some people doing things that they don't like or that are maybe bad or maybe morally questionable based on honor or an oath. But then at the same time, it's like I could see mercy being evil, or in my idea of evil, if it's like depends on your point of view. It's like I'm showing mercy to all of these people. If living is suffering, then the only merciful thing to grant them is death. I could see something like that.
That one always bugged me. Like, what the fuck is invention?
Creativity. It's like it's where the left brain meets the right brain. I could see it. I don't know.
It's weird.
It's not the stupidest one.
I'm also like, how did Ambition? How was Ambition not a bad guy? That was the first thing that was killed.
Wasn't Ambition killed? No.
Yeah, Ambition's the first thing that got killed by Odium. I feel like Ambition and Odium
Ambition was bad. They like honor and cultivation talk about it. Like, well,
really?
we always knew ambition was going to be a problem. That's why it's okay that Odium like wiped them off the face of the earth. But yeah, all right, my friend. It's kind of getting to it here, but we've had a really long, thorough discussion of this fifth Stormlight book, Wind and Truth, and
yeah, hopefully people are going to watch this. But you know, guys, subscribe if you've been listening to us. So I think you owe us that much. You contributed that much time. Build the channel. Look, the Iron Seas. We kind of cultivate cultivation. Which cultivation? Fucking useless character in this. What a useless shard. Yeah, we cultivate kind of like indie creation around here, and we're very pro independent writing, story writing, all that kind of stuff.
We're pro story in general.
Yeah,
we love stories. That's a big part of why we're here, and we like to talk about that. Whether that be a movie, an indie book, or a mainstream book like this, we're here for the discussion. And truth be told, I wish this was a discussion of how incredible this book was, how much we loved it, and how he brought it all. I wish that was the discussion we
I was messaging these guys when I was like at chapter 10. I'm like, bro, I'm so hyped for this book. Like Sunlit, I really enjoyed Sunlit Man, and this book was like really like I was like I really liked Sanderson. I thought I was going to enjoy it, and it just took a quick turn. I was like, bro,
yep.
I don't care about Kaladin being such a pussy. I just don't want my main character just to be such a blabbering fucking pussy. But yeah, guys, subscribe to the channel and join us again. We do a live show every Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're cultivating a cool group of guys who fucking enjoy story writing, because we know there's a lot of you guys out there. So consider joining the Seas, the Iron Seas, guys.
Be a seaman. You'll be better for it. All right. Peace out.